Hey guys, it's me Ramesh again. So this would be my very first episode. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. So today I'll be talking about web apps versus native apps. So it's basically talking about the mobile space, and yeah, the limitations and advantages of that. So yeah, so. The iPhone first came out in the year 2007, and all of you analysts or Apple fans you know, would know that there was no App Store at first. In the year 2007, there was no App Store. The iPhone only came with one screen of apps, and it was the native Apple made apps, which is your calculator, stocks, weather, messages, Safari, iPod, which is now called music. But anyways, so it was just one screen filled with Apple made apps, and that's it. And Apple's stand on apps were basically, Apple was basically championing the usage of web apps. They had a page on apple.com that listed the web apps out there that were made specifically for the iPhone. And so yeah, they said that that was the way forward. But then later on in 2008, and so they caved in and provided a SDK, I think, which is a software development kit, if you don't know, which basically allows third-party developers to develop apps for the iPhone. I guess they had a reason for App Store or this SDK, because it provides some financial advantage, as in they get 30% of the revenue. So the App Store came out in 2008, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and it became an instant success. It went boom, and just every big manufacturer was up there. I mean now if you look at it, Nike is there, McDonald's, Domino's, yeah, I mean you name it, it's there. Just everything is there, Starbucks and all. So there are literally thousands and even millions of apps out there, and these other phones came in as well. Android came in, and it had its own app market, or Google market as they call it, and BlackBerry has its own market too, I think. Microsoft certainly has its market. So basically everyone had an app store of their own, and basically it was an app galore, like Apple with its campaign of an app, there's an app for that. So the basic point here is this shitload of apps out there. So I was thinking whether all this is it like 3 years onwards, since 2007, or I mean 5 years onwards. Let's have a look at it back, and is it all good or not? So my personal opinion, after thinking about it, is that I think that there's too much or too many apps out there, and I think that there needs to be a reduction in the number of native apps, because yeah, I'll go over my justification later on. Yeah, so my opinion is that there should only be native apps for apps for apps that warrant a native app, as in like it would provide a function that otherwise would not be able to be provided by a web app. Then you create a native app. If not, if it can be provided by a web app, I think everyone should just focus on a web app. So I'll go through my reasoning. I don't have much, so yeah, and I promise it will be only about 5 to 10 minutes long. So the very first reason of mine would be a cross compatibility, as in like if it's a web app, developers do not have to have a specific dedicated team for an iPhone app, for a Android app, a BlackBerry app. I know what developers do at the time being is that most of the big names out there only have an iPhone and Android app, and that's about it. They say, oh no, BlackBerry, oh it's okay, later on we'll have a look at it and all. But if you do a web app, you don't have to worry about that. because they all will follow this web standards. HTML5 has gone a long way. I know there's still some limitations in HTML5, and it's still being worked on. The draft is being produced every year or so, but I've seen a lot of HTML5 web apps, and I think they're really quite robust and good. And so yeah, I mean, like, wherever a web app is possible, I think, due to cross compatibility and stuff, it does make sense. So that's the first reason. And then the second reason, which is kind of related to the first reason, would be flexibility and freedom to the customer. See, this is a good way to illustrate this point would be to talk about the now defunct HP web OS systems. Like, I know that there are many web OS fans out there. The Palm Pre 3 or the Pre 2 and all. So I being a tech person, did buy a Palm Pre 3. Yeah, I somehow managed to get one. And as much as a good OS it was, I didn't see much potential in it because a lot of the major app makers were not there. Maybe there were a few, maybe, yeah, perhaps 10 or 20, 10 or 15, but not more than that. And I felt that was a big challenge for me to actually use that phone, and so I eventually sold it. So I'm not a great fan, so it didn't matter too much to me. But I know a lot of people who grew up on Palm, and they're like absolute Palm fans. And if you do a web app instead of a native app, then you are basically giving the flexibility and the freedom to the customer to choose what platform they want to use. We are not restricting the customer, and we're giving the customer the liberty, the choice to make the choice. You see. So that's the second reason. And the third reason I personally think is the usability and practicality. This is basically my opinion, because when I use the iPhone, basically my principle is very simple. I feel that if you have 10 screens that you have to scroll, I think that's a failure right there. Like, just like how, like, Steve Jobs famously said, if you need to manage the task on your phone, if you manually need to close apps or kill apps, then that's not working. Things are not right. And I feel that if you need to scroll 10 pages or 6 pages to get to the app you want, and then go back 6 pages, I mean, just basically having 6 pages of app and you'll have to scroll through them to get them. I think that's not the way it should be. So with so much of native apps, I mean, everyone's iPhone is bound to be filled with a lot of apps. And I think, yeah, that's basically one reason why I favor web apps. Web apps is basically web. So, like, let's say I want to order Domino's. I'm not going to remember any special websites or mobile websites. I'm just going to take my iPhone and type Domino's.ie on it, and it will redirect me to the web app page of Domino's, and I can order a pizza right there. And yeah, so I think that's much more intuitive. I mean, all along on our computers for 5 years, for 10 years or so, we've been just going to the website and doing and do what we want. We don't think about, okay, no, I have to open this app. Imagine having an app on your computer for Domino's, for Starbucks, for Subway, and you see my point here. So I mean, it's just going to the web and just putting the website out and then doing the stuff on the web. So that's a reason. That's another reason. That's a third reason, actually, I think, why web apps should be. So I know there's certain cases where native apps would be better, but I mean, for the most part, what I'm trying to say is a lot of apps out there a lot of native apps can be substituted by a web app, which will function better, and it will be quite robust as well. See, like airlines and all that, they don't necessarily need a native app. A lot of the things that they do can be done in a web app. And yeah, in cases where native app would be needed would be probably like calculators and all. I'm going to run a bit more than 10 minutes, and that's why I'm hesitating. But yeah, I think I should sum up by giving native app a few pluses. Like, yeah, I mean, it would be faster in some circumstances and all, but I think you catch my point. I'm not saying, I'm not really saying, I'm not sorry, I'm not all against native apps. I think they have their purpose and uses as well, but I think web apps should be the main way if possible. Okay guys, that's it for episode 1. I hope you enjoyed listening to me. I hope I didn't ramble too much. Okay, thanks. Stay tuned till the next episode. Bye bye.